One thing I found fascinating about your book, but the fact that the reason why people of lower classes have a different sense of moralities and different set of value, different culture, that dichotomy culture versus economics is actually a false one because different economic condition drive different cultural condition and the emphasis on responsibility that we see among middle class and lower class people is driven by necessity. The reason why solidarity is so important is because you are in tough jobs that require your fellow people at the job to help you out and protect you in case there is a problem in a way in which we Brahmin don't have.
If you're growing up in a family where the good job, whether it's a routine white collar job or a blue collar job or a pink collar job, is that requires you to get up every day, get there on time without an attitude, and is not very intellectually stimulating, what you're going to try to inculcate in your children and yourself is self discipline, the kind that can make you successful in that kind of job. And you're going to very highly value traditional institutions that anchor self discipline, whether it's religion or the military or traditional family values, traditional gender roles. When Democrats had a very solid coalition with blue collar families, both elites and blue collar families shared a pretty traditional morality. I mean, my father was a New Deal Democrat. He thought feminism was ridiculous. And then my generation of hippies came in, and we saw ourselves in a very self-congratulatory way of trashing all outdated social structures, including gender roles. So, we were interested in social inequality and race and gender and climate change. And at that point, the culture of the Brahmin left became very different than the culture of the settled middle class, what we often call blue collar, but is actually the middle 50%. And that culture clash is what created culture wars. And then the right learned how to weaponize those culture wars to pry workers away from liberal parties. And meanwhile, unfortunately, all of this was happening at just the time when workers' futures were going up in smoke very often. And the result is that people in the middle got very, 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 very angry. My crowd, of course, and includes me. I mean, I'm very focused on climate change. But when I was reading about the Yellow Vest movement in France, there was one very common sign that said Macron, who of course was the French president, representing in this case the Brahmin left. Macron cares about the end of the world. We care about the end of the month. And that's exactly the kind of culture clash that the far right has weaponized so effectively. And it's really a one trick pony, but they only need the one trick because we keep falling into the trap. And I've been saying the same thing for 20 years. It's really actually time to stop falling for the same old move.
In your sort of story, you didn't mention the Vietnam War that I think play a pretty crucial role
Did.
because I think that is the Vietnam War generation that became Democrat because of the opposition at the war to Vietnam, and basically started to gain power in Congress after the Watergate scandal. And that generation is the generation of the Watergate babies, as they were called, are the ones that started to look down to the Union workers, who, by the way, supported the war for Vietnam. So, what role did the Vietnam War play in all this?
The Vietnam War did play a role in the hippie revolt. which was, in retrospect, a revolt of upper middle class kids against their upper middle class parents, and so was read by blue collar people as just another exercise of privilege by irresponsible elite kids who didn't need to seek security because the security was daddy's bank account. So the issues that created this cultural rift that eventually became a cultural difference between elites and non-elites. That you're right, the Vietnam War was a very central role in that. We see the echoes, though, today, and this is particularly true in Europe, but it's also very true in the United States. There is no far right populist movement that has been successful without centering the issue of immigration. And the issue of immigration is similar to the Vietnam War issue. And it goes back to a very human instinct, which is to stress whatever form of high status you have. So, my crowd, we stress that we're members of a global elite. We stress class because that's the highest status we have. But Americans, and this is true of Italians too, and many other countries in Europe, people who are British, one of the highest, but working class, being British is one of the highest status categories that they have, that they inhabit. And so working class people are more patriotic than elites are, because each group is stressing the status that gives them social honor. It's what I call the scrum for social honor, which is a very important spring of a lot of social behavior. And so you have elites, you have the Americans back in the Vietnam War, the middle class Americans, very patriotic, and elites not patriotic, even burning flags and such. And in the way this plays out in Europe is that you have a Brahmin elite that is very pro-Europe, and you have middle-class Italians that are voting for Giorgia Meloni. So this is the sort of globalism versus patriotism vector of politics that's been going on since the Vietnam War is also an artifact of this class dynamic that I'm trying to describe.